I thought he was crazy when Chris told me that. You called this other shop owner and he's gonna let you in his shop
Yeah.
to like steal his ideas and stuff. And yeah, and Chris was like, yeah, I am. I'm gonna just talk to him. He's been doing this forever, you know? And so he did that and he came home and he's implemented so many things over the years that he's found from other shops, that one, but others too.
The Body Bangin' podcast is back with season 2, and we are starting out with a bang. We are talking about insurer relations. We are talking about adding tow services to your collision center. And we are also talking about the 4-day work week. I hear so many shops going to that. Is that something you should be thinking about? Well, stay tuned because we have Kena Dacus on from Dacus Auto Body and Collision Center, and we chat about a lot of really good things. Enjoy. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Body Bangin' podcast. Can you believe here we are years later and you are still listening? You're still loving the show, and we are launching season 2. So exciting. Yay. And today we have on a friend of mine that I've met recently at events. Gosh, I guess it's not been too recently, but Kena Dacus, who owns Dacus Auto Body and Collision Repair, her and her husband, Chris. And I had the privilege of meeting her at an event, and we totally hit it off. And to see, Kenna, all the things that you're doing, and all your name's just everywhere. Your name, Chris's name, the shop's name. I mean, from where you guys started to where you're at now, it's like you have this momentum going, and it's so awesome. And you're such good people, and you're such a good person that to see it happening to somebody like you, it just makes me so happy for you. So thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, well, thank you for making my head so big at the beginning of this because it's nice to hear all these compliments. No,
Yeah, right? We could just
it's
do the whole
yeah.
podcast complimenting you. Yeah.
So thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. So, a little background on Kenna and her husband, Chris. So, they started Dacus back in 2014. And like I said, the shop has really grown to the point now where they have a tow company, they now have 2 shops. Kenna herself is involved in all kinds of things. They're part of the Spartan group with Mike Anderson. She's part of WIN. You guys are involved in trade shows and you're speaking at things. So, I mean, you are really in it, which is so cool. And I have so many questions. So I thought, who is the perfect person to start out season 2? Kenna, I know it. A, we got to have a woman because we haven't had enough in season 1. So, yay. Thank you for coming on. Um, and B, let's chat about some of the incredible things you guys are doing over there. So, first of all, you guys are your main shop. Your first shop was where? Give me the.
Okay, so we actually started our first shop in a tiny little building, 12 miles east of where we are now, in a town called Canton, Kansas. Super small. We own the building, 3,000 square feet. That's where Chris and I started.
Yeah.
And we outgrew that pretty quick. We were looking for other solutions. In McPherson, Kansas, that's really the main city where we work now and where we live. And the main population that we serve, maybe is the right way to say it.
Right.
And so, as it so happened, the shop that Chris had worked at as a technician before starting his shop,
Mm.
the owner of that shop called him 3 years in and said, I need to sell. I need to sell quick. So it worked out really nice because we were actually able to close that smaller shop and we just moved into this larger shop
Perfect.
and we acquired it and just kind of moved into it from there.
Yeah.
And McPherson, Kansas is now where our original shop is now, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah. 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 And then just this year, was it 2025? You just closed on your other shop?
2 weeks ago, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. And that one is where?
That is in Salina, Kansas. It's about 30 miles north of us here.
Okay.
So,
Wow. So you're closed. It's yours.
yeah,
Let the party start.
the
Okay.
party has started. Yes.
That's
I don't know
amazing.
if I would call it a party, but yes, it's the stuff
The
is,
adventure.
yeah.
Yeah. That's so cool. So a lot of different things they've been involved in, and we'll get started first. I mean, there are so many things that we had spoken about, but first things first, I know a lot of shops are frustrated, we're going to get to the thing that I know you guys are all thinking about because I hear everybody talking about it. And at Dacus, you guys have a lot of certifications,
Mhm.
which means you have to repair a car a certain way. And you also are an honest, ethical shop following the manufacturer repair procedures, all of that kind of stuff. And one of the chief complaints that I hear all the time is, and you see it on Facebook groups, people are frustrated, is dealing with insurers not paying, pushing back on how to repair the vehicle. And it's something that everybody's dealing with right now. So curious for your team, are you feeling that? What does that look like for you? And also what are you doing to help to work through it? What are the positive things you're doing that might be able to help others out there that are also frustrated with this right now?
Gosh, I don't know if I have the magic answer to this. But yes, for to start off with, we are experiencing that. I would say the biggest uh the biggest hang up for us right now is getting paid for the safety inspections that are
Mm.
oftentimes required, or maybe it's a gray area. Sometimes they're hard to interpret what's necessary and what's not necessary.
Right.
Um, like what is a collision? Like that conversation is
Mm.
happening between us and the carriers. And so it's just tough because the OEMs write it a certain way, and then I feel like it's up to the repairers to interpret that.
Right.
And then when you get pushback from the carriers, it just feels like we're in this lose-lose situation.
Yeah.
We either repair, we do the inspections or repair them correctly, whatever we're talking about. We either do it and we don't get paid, or we
Hmm.
don't do it. And
Right.
those options kind of stink, to be honest. So
Yep.
I have found over the years that building relationships with the adjusters is sometimes helpful.
Hmm.
Have to be willing to give, and I've struggled with that in the past. I like to win. I'm very competitive, so I have learned that sometimes it has to be give and take. It has to be, and most of the adjusters, honestly, they're not even really the decision makers in my
True.
experience. They're just
Yeah.
doing the job with the parameters that they've been given.
Good point.
So documenting helps, if you can make it really easy for them and like really obvious.
Hmm.
I have found that helps a lot too.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I mean, people I've spoken with about this because it's a topic that comes up a lot. And some shops, well, everybody has their way of dealing with it. And some shops are more inclined to try to be more friendly and take the friendlier approach. And others are like, I'm sick of being friendly. Now it's the screw off. And now it's totally contentious. And I get it. I understand all of it. Um, but like you're saying, trying to develop the relationship with the adjuster, create some type of common ground. I have heard from a lot of shops that are more successful with this that does help ease the process, because at the end of the day, we've got to do this all day. And if it's this contentious, angry, anxiety, tension that we're living in, what is that doing to our health, for goodness sakes? Forget everything else for a second. Like, oh,
Yeah. And on that note, I would also say, I should have mentioned this earlier, but getting the customer involved in the conversation
yes,
should be number one. I should
right.
mention that first, but just keeping them in the loop, seeing them on all the correspondence, making sure they understand what it is we're trying to do and
Right.
challenges that we're facing. That has been really helpful too. And to be honest, it's their cars, their repair,
Yes.
it's their claim, it's their
Yep.
settlement. So it makes sense.
Absolutely. And it helps them to recognize the customer, recognize that this isn't because we see a lot of customers come back and say, like, you're trying to take advantage of me, you're trying to do things that are unnecessary. So I think that education component is so important in helping them understand what's really going on. And you're here trying to advocate for them for their safety, not just so you can make a buck, which is the perception that they're getting, especially sometimes after they've spoken with somebody on the insurance side. And that's the way it sometimes feels. Um, so yeah, very important. Now, are most of your communications through email? Are people coming out in person? I know different states and different areas
Yeah,
are.
we're in
mix.
a really rural area, and it seems like most things are done virtually at this point,
Okay.
via email or phone, or there's some virtual estimates that we try and do sometimes, like a Zoom call type thing, but
Yep.
we don't see very many people in person anymore, which
Yeah.
sometimes makes it harder. I mean, I think it
Yes.
speed up the process occasionally if we don't have to wait for them to come,
Right.
but if they can't see the damage, it sometimes it's harder to justify it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think those are some good takeaways. I did a podcast episode with Michael Giarrizzo. I believe he was the last one of season one, and it was one of the most popular, and he really gets into documentation. So I think that you hit on a really important fact. So if you didn't hear that episode, go back and listen to it. It's very powerful. Not only to go back and forth with the insurance company, but to make sure A, you're doing it right, and B, that you're covered if anybody were to ever say that you didn't do it properly. So many benefits to that. So yeah, I definitely appreciate you bringing that up. So Kenna, I know we have so many things. Kenna and I were talking before this, and we're like, what are we going to talk about? There's so many things. So one of the things that Kenna and Chris did is they started a tow company, which I know with claim count being down, I talked to so many shops and they're trying to find other ways to bring more dollars into the business or other ways that they can expand their business. So we see everything from people starting to do rental cars. We see ADAS coming in house. We're seeing ceramic coating. That's an expensive add-on that kind of works with the shop thing. But I also have a lot of marketing clients that are doing ceramic coating. Yes, ceramic coating, but towing.
Yeah.
Towing is a huge piece of the puzzle. And some shops are just doing towing for their own vehicles because now they can, they can basically sublet that labor out to themselves. But then we've got a body shop like you guys have where your tow company is completely separate. So tell me how did that work for you guys to do that? Do you feel like that's been a fantastic revenue source? Because it's been what, 5 years? I think you started in
We're on year
2020.
5. I have a lot to say about it, but I'll try and keep it quick.
Okay.
Original plan was to serve only our body shop clients, right?
Right.
We wanted to be able to help them at the beginning of their accident and not wait until we're trying to figure out what tow yard it's in and how can we get it here and that type of thing.
Right.
We wanted them to be able to call us right away and say, what do I do? And we could just help them from minute one.
Yes.
And we did create a separate company from the beginning. Honestly, just at the advice of our attorney, just for liability
Hmm.
purposes, because the towing is actually really dangerous and there's a lot of liability that comes with it. So
Mm.
we wanted to protect our collision repair shop and that business. And what we found pretty quickly was it's a very expensive business to run. And our one collision repair shop could not really support it on it.
Mm.
So we have kind of slowly it's evolved. And now I think we've got 6 trucks.
Wow.
And we do everything from light duty all the way up to heavy duty semi towing and
Okay.
recoveries.
Wow.
So it started out, simple just to support the body shop and now has really evolved into its own. It's
Wow.
well, and I will say this year 5 is going to be profitable, I think, so far.
That's
Uh,
interesting. So why the big expense? Because I would think like the biggest expense is the tow truck itself and then paying a driver. So in my mind, it would be a lower expense item. So explain
yeah,
that.
the trucks are expensive,
Okay.
especially if you get past the light duty trucks.
Okay.
Towing big trucks, the equipment just gets a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
But the insurance is probably the
Mm.
biggest expense, just because it's such a dangerous occupation and business to be in.
Right.
Insurance is super expensive, and then just the volume of calls, and we're in a rural area, so this may be a different situation, for in a different location, but
Right.
like a bigger city, but just the volume of calls we were getting, just we're not supporting the insurance
Mm.
truck payments. And you have to have experienced drivers, oftentimes with a CDL,
Okay.
to play by all of the KDOT and the DOT rules and regulations.
Right.
And then if you want to be open 24/7, you have to have staff to answer the phone.
Oh, that staff thing. Yes.
So yeah, so I will say it it's a completely separate industry. And I think like these industries support each other in a lot of ways. And so it made sense to us. And I have no regrets. I don't think Chris does either. We love it, but it's been a whole separate industry that we
Okay.
have had to learn.
Interesting. Well, and it's similar to ADAS, although it connects, it's a totally different learning curve, totally different equipment, different staffing typically that's going to run it. Although it seems like the tow piece of it sounds much, well, I don't know because ADAS can be pretty expensive because you got to have the air dedicated space. Are you guys doing that as well?
Um, some, not much.
Okay. So yeah, that if when you're opening up your own ADAS center, that is a huge investment also. So, I mean, these are big investments, but ideally over the course of time, you will get the ROI. So I think if you're thinking about it, definitely talk with other shops that are doing it so you don't make the same mistakes that they made. Don't reinvent the wheel. There are other shops out there that have done this that could potentially help you. And one thing that Kenna's really good about that when we were talking initially, she made a really good point that when they first started, they didn't even realize that they had access to all of these different ways of learning. You want to talk just for a quick sec on that?
Yeah, when Chris was a technician, and he left the shop he was working at, which is now the one that we own, but he left that shop to kind of go out on his own. And it's I have to laugh a little looking back because he was a technician, he knew how to fix cars, but we had to learn how to order parts and how to submit supplements and where to buy paint. And we just like there was this huge learning curve, and we didn't know. It was probably a couple years went by before one of our paint representatives stopped by and was like, how come we never see you guys at these classes and these things? And we're like, we didn't know. We didn't, there was like all these people. And that's the thing I love about our industry the most, honestly, is there is so much support. If
Yes.
you, I'm a big believer in you get out of something what you put into it.
Yes.
So once we started going to some of those classes and connecting with other shop owners, it just like, I just feel like we've had this like snowball of momentum that's just not stopped because
Yeah.
you just said it, there are so many people that have already done this. And why are we putting ourselves through this misery? Learning all these things that and I'll never forget, there's a shop owner in Wichita, Brad Shelton is his name. But Chris called him one day and said, can I come look at your shop? And this was around this time when we didn't have a lot of connections. And I thought he was crazy when Chris told me that. You called this other shop owner and he's gonna let you in his shop
Yeah.
to like steal his ideas and stuff. And yeah, and Chris was like, yeah, I am. I'm gonna just talk to him. He's been doing this forever. And so he did that, and he came home and he's implemented so many things over the years that he's found from other shops, that one, but others too.
Yeah.
Michael Giarrizza was one. We've visited his shop several times,
Awesome.
multiple shops, and because you're right, and those people like they're giving us like they're helping us and they're happy to do it. And
Yeah.
we take a lot of those things back, and we always try to give credit where credit's due, but there's so much support out there that I wish we would have known at the beginning, but now
Yeah.
we know.
Yeah. Well, and there are so many shop owners still out there that are not taking advantage. I mean, that's why I started the podcast because I was a shop owner that didn't realize I had a few great mentors and people let me into their shops and helped me. But it wasn't until I started getting involved and I thought, man, how many shop owners are like me, how I was, feeling like I was on an island trying to just navigate what felt like a big overwhelming mess. And I see you guys, you're very involved and it's evident in the results that you're getting because you're learning from people that have been there, done that. You're hearing what other shops are doing so you get to learn from each other and collaborate versus this, a lot of the industry, especially when I first started almost 20 years ago, was so competitive that they didn't open their doors. Like your response, that was my response back then of I'm not letting somebody in this shop to give away my secrets. Where there's been a shift of, hey, we're all in this together. And that was one of my heart projects when I started the podcast is get it out there so people, because some people maybe don't have a local association. They don't have ways to get involved in person. Although I think you're your jobbers and that kind of stuff can lead you in a good direction. But listening to podcasts like mine, there's a bunch out there. So they get to hear from people like you. I mean, it's so great. So like with the towing thing or the ADAS thing, whatever you want to get into, talk with others. They would be willing to help you so you can decide if it's going to be best for you or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay, so we're going to pivot topics real quick and then we'll wrap up because we're not going to keep people forever. And I don't want to give people so much that they're like, oh my gosh, my brain's on fire. Um, but what one thing that Dacus has been doing, and I think it's awesome. Michael Bradshaw talked a little bit about it on one of his podcasts he was on. And I know you guys have implemented the 4-day work week. And some shops are like, they can't even get it through their brain. But I feel like through the course of time since we've been talking about it over the last maybe couple of years, when I think shops started doing it and being successful with it, sometimes we need to hear things more
Yeah.
than once. So if it's your first time hearing this, you're probably going to dismiss all of this and feel like, yeah, that sounds good. It ain't going to happen. But I feel like the more you hear it, the more you think, maybe that would be good. So for some people, when they hear you talk about this, this is going to be what they need to push them into doing something like this. So when did you transition from the 5-day work week to the 4-day work week? Let's start there.
Uh, let's see. So we're coming up on our third, so to be 3 summers ago. This will be our
Okay.
third summer in June.
Wow.
So we just finished our third full year. And it was a situation where we heard about it, from somewhere, and we pulled our team together for a meeting and said, is this something that you guys would consider? And we knew it was going to have to be kind of an all or nothing
Right.
type of implementation. So, and we told them that we were very open with them. This is what it could look like. And um, the majority of them were not interested. I would say,
Oh,
and that surprised me. I'll be honest.
yeah.
But we had a few that just, they're like 10-hour days. That's too much.
Mm.
So that's cool. We backed off. And then I think what you just said is kind of what started to happen. They just like that little seed was planted and they just started thinking about it a little bit. And a few of them kind of came back around and said, let's revisit this. So
Mm.
we had out of a team of, I think we had probably, I don't know, 15 people on our team at the time. Only 2 of them were still on the fence, let's say.
Okay.
And so we just said, how about you give us like a month? Let's do this for 4 weeks and see what happens.
Yeah. Okay.
And we did that little trial period. It might have been 6 weeks. I'm trying to remember now, but either way, we did that. And after just week 2, those guys came back and they're like, yeah, this is awesome. We're going to keep it.
Really?
Yes, because they realize, I mean, the longer days are tough, but when you can have a 3-day weekend every weekend, that's pretty
Right.
cool. Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's not like it's a 12-hour day. And a lot of people put in 10 hours and don't even realize because a lot of times you're working longer just to finish things up, wrap things up.
Yeah. So we kind of let them choose. They actually chose to shorten their lunch break to 30 minutes.
Okay.
So we kind of just took a group vote, kind of like a democracy, and
Yeah.
that's what we do. And that helps shorten their day a little bit too.
Right. So then they're not done quite as late in the evening. So typically what's the like does that affect the hours that your shop is open or just the hours that the techs are working? What does that look like?
At the time of that transition, our front office staff was, well, they still are, all pretty young folks with younger kids. And Chris and I are included in that bunch. We've got 3 small children, 8, 6, and
Yeah.
4. And at the time, I guess if you back that up 3 years ago, I think there were 4, 2, and newborn.
Wow.
So, getting them to daycare, I mean, they can't sit at daycare for like 12 hours because by the time you drive
Right.
and drop them and come to work and the whole thing.
Right.
The front office, a long way to answer your short question. The front office kind of opted or voted to stay open the 8 to 5. And so
Okay.
most of our administrative staff works 8 to 5. The office is open still those regular hours.
Okay.
Production goes the other schedule, but there's a few people that have that flexibility because Fridays are definitely like, we love Fridays now. Fridays used to be stressful because you're trying to get all the cars out,
Right.
now or Thursday, but for the admin staff to come in on a Friday without production and you can catch up on your customer
Mm.
updates and you can really focus on some of your report cleanup and supplements or whatever you need to do.
Right. So is it so the actual office is open 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. So you're still open 5 days for the
Yep.
front office staff, but everybody in the back is doing the 4 days. Is it Monday through Thursday then for them? Okay.
Yep. And then
Yeah.
when we get here at 7:30 or 8, they're in full production mode back there. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. That's an awesome option. Yeah. Okay. So that makes sense though. And I think that's part of why getting your team on board is so important and talking with them about it. Because, like you said, it's either all or nothing. We're not going to have, two techs can't be the ones working 5 days a week. Like, we're all going to do this or we're all not. And it's one thing to separate it front office versus back crew, like production and that type of thing. And I like the idea that the front office is still open because customers need you around. They need you to be available to field the phone calls and that kind of stuff. So it makes sense to keep those hours still available so that you're still available for the public. Because I know
Yeah.
some shops are like potentially like closing on Fridays, but
Yeah,
then how
I
do
love it.
customers feel about that?
Yeah, exactly. So it works really good for us, but it also gives us the flexibility on Friday that we don't necessarily need the full admin staff here, just because there's a little bit less going on.
Right. Okay. Wow. So for those of you guys thinking about it, this could be the time to get ready to implement. How did you feel like it was a mess merging into it? Did it were there any bottlenecks that you found when you switched over?
No, it was pretty seamless for us, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, it improved our cycle time actually,
Okay.
and because there was less start and stop, and
Mhm.
you only have to clean up 4 times instead of 5 times.
Right.
And all those inefficiencies that you get from, I don't know, opening up shop and closing shop and all and
Mhm.
all of that stuff. So it was pretty seamless, and I would say the biggest takeaway is it has been the best recruiting tool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. I love that. I didn't even
If I
think
were
about
listening
that.
to this, I would consider it just because it's a really cool and different thing that you can offer that kind of sets you apart.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I hadn't even thought about that. Question for you. So I know a lot of shops are oftentimes, and your shop might not be set up this way, but oftentimes shops are super busy on Fridays because that's like a big delivery day, trying to deliver on Fridays. Do you just operate differently, or do you have a bulk of deliveries happening on different days? What does that look like?
We try to deliver the same amount of cars every day because in a perfect world, right,
Yeah,
you're bringing in so many cars a day and so many cars are leaving every day.
right.
So we try to keep that pretty even. Friday is a great day for deliveries though. If it got finished late in the day on Thursday, it's
Mhm.
really nice to be able to just slow down, QC it, and set
Yeah,
that appointment with the customer where you can sit down and go through their bill with them and kind of do a full walk around and spend good time with them.
right.
So we do still deliver plenty of cars on Friday. Um,
Okay,
Mostly just because customers seem to have more availability than two.
right.
So
So now
I would say all days are still good delivery days.
yeah. What about your writers? Are you considering them as part of admin staff?
We have just one in the front office that writes
Okay.
estimates. We try actually not to write estimates when we can avoid it, just because they're
Yeah.
not.
Right.
So we have one that helps in the front, for those that need one or feel
Yeah.
like they want one. Otherwise our repair planners are 410s in the back.
Okay. Okay. That could be a different conversation for a different day. Because I know people want to know more about that piece.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great, Kenna. I mean, so many good things because when we do the podcast episodes, so many shops are at so many different places in their journey. And some have tried things and they haven't worked, but maybe they might want to go back to it, or they're considering something that they haven't done yet, but they don't quite know how to proceed. So, especially with the 4 day work week thing, it seems like from your perspective, first of all, the fact that it's a great recruiting tool right now, because shops are slower, we see a lot of layoffs happening. So the pool has opened up where it was very constricted 6 months, a year ago. So this could be a fantastic way to pull some of those really good people in and snag them. And then if it gives more availability, more efficiency to the shop and to the team, and if your people are more satisfied because they only worked 4 days, so they're more refreshed when they come back on a Monday, um, potentially less arguments, less tension. Gosh, you've already sold me, and I don't even have my shop anymore. Yeah, I love it. Okay.
Really not seeing a lot of negatives from it at all. So I can't think
Yeah,
of one.
that's amazing. Okay. Well, Kenna, if people have questions for you and they wanted to chat with you more about like your towing or anything else that you're doing, I know you are around. Kenna speaks at events, so you can. Are you going to be speaking at SEMA this year? I didn't ask you.
I am not. It's not this year.
You attending? Will you be
Yes,
there?
I'm attending. Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, so we'll get to see you then. Um, well, Kenna's around. So if you follow her on like LinkedIn, that type of thing, typically she's posting if she's going to be speaking. I know she's spoken at the Oklahoma Auto Body Association stuff before. So she's around, but can I put your email or something in the description? Perfect. Awesome. So I'll put that in the description. So if you guys want to reach out, ask her any questions, you can. Her and her husband, Chris, are just so awesome. And I love how open you guys are to helping others because you were there before. So I think for you guys, it means a little something different, right? To
Yeah.
give back.
Yeah. We're still learning a lot too.
Of
So
course. Aren't we
thanks.
all? Like, I don't think you ever stop. There's so much. So perfect. Okay. Well, we're going to wrap this up for today. So many good takeaways. Any last thoughts that you're like, you know what? I thought of something, but I didn't get a chance to say it.
Hmm. That's hard to summarize, I guess. But I would go back to just getting involved. Chris and I are so involved, like you said, sometimes maybe too involved. Like maybe we're running ourselves ragged, trying to be a part of everything all the time. But I think there's so many shops or shop owners or managers that feel like maybe they can't afford to take a couple days off, right?
Hmm.
But I guess I would challenge if you're one of those folks in that situation, I would challenge you to say that maybe you can't afford not to, right?
Mm.
Because we make time for so many of these industry events because we always walk away with so much, to implement or that we learned or ways to make us more profitable. So I would just challenge everyone to get involved and stay involved in all the things because our
Hmm.
industry is it's really supportive and there's really a lot going on if you take the time to get involved.
Yeah. Thank you for that. You said that. It gave me the goosebumps. That was perfect. Well, thank you guys, everybody, for listening. We'll come back to season 2. I know you guys are excited. I am too. Make sure that you hit not only the like button on this video, but subscribe to the channel on YouTube. You can also follow us on all the podcast platforms. That way you get alerted anytime a new episode is dropped because we have some incredible, incredible guests coming for season 2 that you will not want to miss. So thanks again, Kenna. So appreciate your time and we will see you all next time. Bye.